Why do men date strippers, prostitutes, etc.?
Oh, I think I know where you're getting at, but I'm going to answer the question that you actually asked. So why do men spend time or date strippers or call girls? My attitude around actual prostitution has changed as I've matured and become more successful. I used to believe, and this is definitely still the case, that the men who used prostitutes just couldn't get sex otherwise. And there are certainly men who use those services for that reason. However, the more successful a man becomes, the more expensive traditional dating becomes for him. Prostitution, even high-priced call girls, become cheaper than going out with a normal woman. Why? Okay, like, let's say a guy is a corporate lawyer who bills at $1,200 an hour, which is a fairly average rate for a partner in major markets. If he's going to ask out a girl, maybe he has to spend an hour driving to the bar, and then he has to spend another hour or two talking to her, and he might not even really care at all about what this woman is saying, but he knows that he has to go through the ritual and then buy her drinks and buy her dinner, and then run the risk of not even being able to get laid that night.
Might take a couple.
It might.
Yeah.
So in terms of the opportunity cost, because if this guy is really successful, there could be a lot of other women that he could have been spending that evening with, between the drinks and the travel and the dinners, but really the time, that evening, which couldn't very well not have ended in sex, might have cost that man thousands of dollars.
Yep. And the time
Whereas, well, especially the time spent and the opportunity that could have been spent with somebody else that could have led to a satisfying sexual encounter, if that's what he was looking for. On the flip side, you could pay $1,000 for a prostitute. She comes right over. You guaranteed to have the sexual encounter. Then she leaves. It's like that dude is saving money. I don't personally use prostitutes, but I can understand why guys use them.
Yep. So it's interesting. So the way you answered this one is, why do people, basically the way you answered this one was, why do men pay for prostitutes? But I wanted to ask, because this came from one of the videos that you did, why do men end up dating strippers and prostitutes?
Maybe the question you want to ask is, why do men sometimes end up falling in love with these women?
Yes. Why do men fall in love with prostitutes and strippers?
Yeah, this one's kind of wild, especially for a lot of women to appreciate. But like every month I do consultations with guys who legitimately fall in love with escorts and strippers. And most people just have this knee-jerk judgmentalism about this. Like, oh, those guys are just somehow emotionally damaged or psychologically immature, which I'm sure happens in this dynamic that I'm describing. But I think that it's unfair to say that's the only reason for all cases. One of the reasons why men will fall in love with women who do this is because those women, they know what a man wants they know what a man wants sexually, both physically and emotionally. And there's a stronger emotional component to sex than a lot of guys realize or are willing to admit. It's not just that a escort will necessarily do all kinds of things sexually that other women might not, but they are trained in making that man feel like he is the best that she's ever had, which is part of what he's paying for on some level, to be praiseful and enthusiastic about his prowess. So the combination of those two things, the escort or the stripper doing things for him sexually that other women won't, and potentially making him feel in the context of the bedroom in ways that other women won't, men fall in love with those women all the time because they're getting something that they can't get anywhere else.
So with all the people that you do these consults with, like, I'm just curious, where do those relationships end up going? Do they end up lasting from what you've seen?
Oh, no, they don't last.
Yeah.
They don't last. And sometimes the men are heartbroken, but I can understand why they fall in love based on what I just told you.
Yep. Makes sense.